Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Dr. Supradip Das, Assistant Professor at the Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. And this is the 17th lecture of this course, Introduction to Toy Design. In the previous lectures, we explored how children develop across age, how play changes with physical, cognitive, and socio-emotional growth, and how different types of play support thinking, emotion, and social understanding. Across all these discussions, one idea kept returning again and again. Play is not separate from learning. We saw that children don't first learn and then play. They play in order to learn. Today's lecture builds directly on that foundation. If play is how children naturally engage with the world, then learning does not happen outside play. It often happens through play. In this lecture, we move one step further. We will look at how play are not only tools for development, but also powerful tools for education and pedagogy. We will explore how different educational philosophies, from Froebel and Montessori to Reggio Emilia, Waldorf, STEM, and national toy-based pedagogy, have all used play as a medium for learning in different ways. We will then examine STEM and STEM pedagogies, where toys become tools for experimentation, construction, and problem solving, closely linked to Pepper's constructionist ideas. After that, we will look at toy-based pedagogy as articulated in the Indian context, particularly under NEP 2020, and understand its goals, implementation, and impact on children, teachers, and classrooms. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to clearly understand what is meant by toy-based and play-based pedagogies, and how they differ from traditional instruction-led learning. You should be able to recognize how thinkers like Froebel, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, Waldorf, educators, and Peppert each used play and materials as core learning tools, even though their philosophies differed. You should also be able to analyze toys not just as objects, but as learning environments that shape engagement, thinking, emotion, and social interaction. Importantly, you should be able to connect toy design decisions such as openness, materiality, structure, feedback, and challenge to broader pedagogical goals. Finally, you should understand how toy-based pedagogy in India fits into this global lineage and what it means for designing toys that support active learning, inclusion, and 21st century skills. Before we look at specific pedagogies, we need to clarify what we mean by toy-based and play-based pedagogies. In simple terms, these are approaches to learning where play and toys become central media for education, not just supplementary activities. Here, toys are not treated only as entertainment or rewards after learning. They are treated as learning environments, spaces where thinking, exploration, and discovery happen naturally through interaction. In these pedagogies, play is not merely an outcome of learning. Play becomes the method of learning itself. Instead of beginning with instruction and ending with activity, these approaches reverse the order. Children first explore, manipulate, build, imagine, and experiment, and understanding emerges from that experiences. Toys in this context are not teaching devices that deliver content. They are mediating objects, materials that shape how children perceive, act, think, and reflect. Engagement becomes central here. When children are curious, emotionally involved, and actively manipulating materials, learning becomes deeper, more persistent, and more meaningful. For designers, this is a critical shift. We are no longer designing toys only for amusement or even only for development. We are designing learning experiences through play. And different pedagogies imagine this relationship between play, learning, and toys in very different ways. This is what we will explore next as we move into the classical pedagogies that shaped educational toy design. Friedrich Froebel is often called the father of early childhood education. He was the first educator to systematically place play at the center of learning. In fact, the word kindergarten, which translates to children's garden, was his invention. Froebel believed that children are not empty vessels to be filled with knowledge. Instead, they are living systems that grow naturally when given the right environment. For him, education was not about instruction first, but about nurturing development. Play in Froebel's philosophy was not leisure. It was the child's most natural form of learning, self-expression, and world building. And importantly for us, as designers, Froebel was also one of the first to design purpose-built educational toys. Play, according to Froebel, is the highest expression of human development in childhood. Through play, children externalize their inner thoughts, emotions, and understanding. He also believed deeply in the unity between child, nature, and the world. That is why many Froebel's activities involve natural materials, symmetry, rhythm, and pattern. For Froebel, education is not about controlling behavior or transmitting facts. It is about revealing the child's inner order through carefully designed experiences. These makes Froebel one of the earliest thinkers to connect development, play, materials, and environment into a single learning system. Froebel's thinking strongly influenced later educational movements. Montessori's materials, Dewey's experiential learning, and even Pepper's constructionism all echo Froebel's core idea that knowledge is built through action. For toy designers today, Froebel leaves a lasting lesson. Good toys are not only entertaining, they can embody learning principles, developmental logic, and cognitive progression within their form. Perhaps his most enduring contribution is this simple but radical idea that play is not a break from learning. Play is the foundation of learning itself. One of the Froebel's most influential contributions is the system of materials called the gifts. These were among the first intentionally designed educational toys in history. The gifts were introduced in a pieces sequence, from simple to complex. Children began with soft balls, then moved to wooden cubes, cylinders, blocks, sticks, and tiles. Each material revealed a different property of form, space, movement, and pattern. Children did not receive verbal lessons first. They discovered mathematical, spatial, and aesthetic principles through manipulation and construction. In many ways, this is the earliest example of constructionist toy design, where knowledge emerges through making, arranging, and transforming objects. Froebel treated learning materials not as accessories, but as primary teaching instruments. His gifts introduced three powerful design principles. First, progression. Materials move from simple to complex. Second, abstraction. Children move from concrete form to symbolic understanding. Third, embodiment. Learning happens through the hands, not only the minds. Almost every manipulative learning toy we see today traces its lineage back to Froebel. Wooden blocks, pattern tiles, tangrams, Montessori materials, even Lego all inherit this idea that building is thinking. For the first time, toys were no longer just playthings. They became structured cognitive tools embedded with educational intent. This is where toy design begins to intersect formally with pedagogy. The next and very popular pedagogy we will discuss is the Montessori method by Maria Montessori. Contrary to popular belief, Maria Montessori was not originally a teacher. She was a medical doctor. Her work began with children who were considered uneducable, and she noticed something radical for her time. Children learned best not by listening but by doing. She carefully observed how children touched, moved, repeated actions, and concentrated deeply when given the right materials. From this came a powerful idea: the child is not an empty vessel to be filled, but an active constructor of knowledge. Her famous phrase, "Help me to do it myself," captures her philosophy perfectly. Learning is not transmitted by the adult, it is built by the child through independent action. This shift is crucial for toy and material design because Montessori placed materials at the center of learning. Montessori education is built on a few very precise principles. First, learning is child-centered. The child chooses activities based on inner motivation, not adult instruction. Second, independence is central. Children are encouraged to dress themselves, choose materials, repeat tasks, and correct their own mistakes. Third, learning always happens through the hands. Abstract ideas are introduced only after children manipulate concrete materials. Montessori also introduced the idea of sensitive periods, windows of time when children are especially ready to acquire certain skills, such as language, movement, or order. Finally, it says freedom exists but within structure. The environment is carefully prepared so that freedom leads to concentration, not chaos. As you see, Montessori did not separate play and learning the way we often do today. For her, meaningful activities was both play and work. When children repeat an action again and again, pouring water, stacking cylinders, tracking letters, this is not boredom, it is mastery. She observed long periods of concentration that looked almost meditative. This state, which she called normalization, appears when the child finds the right materials at the right moment. Order is also central. A well-ordered environment supports internal order in thinking. One of Montessori's most important contributions is the idea of the prepared environment. The classroom itself becomes a teacher. Everything is called to the child. Tables, shelves, tools, materials are placed neatly, always in the same position, inviting the child to choose independently. Each material isolates one concept at a time. For example, puzzle might teach only size, or only shape, or only sequence, never too many ideas together. Most importantly, Montessori materials contain control of error. The child see and feel when something is wrong without adult correction. This is a powerful design lesson. A good learning toy should guide the child silently through form, fit, balance, and feedback rather than through instructions. Montessori's legacy is visible everywhere in toy and learning design today. From puzzles and stacking sets to counting rods and activity boards, her principles shapes how we think about early learning materials. For designers, Montessori offers very concrete guidance designed for independence. The child should not need constant adult help. Embed feedback into the object itself. Teach one idea at a time. Allow repetition without breaking or boring. And above all, respect the child's intelligence. In Montessori's world, a good toy is not a performer. It is a quiet guide. And that philosophy remains one of the strongest foundations for designing meaningful learning toys even today. The Reggio Emilia approach began in a small town in northern Italy after World War II. Parents and educators wanted to rebuild not only schools, but a new vision of childhood and citizenship. The central figure was Loris Malaguzzi, a teacher and psychologist who believed deeply in children's intelligence and creativity. Unlike Montessori or Froebel, Reggio Emilia is not a fixed method. It is a living educational philosophy shaped by community and culture. Its most famous idea is that the child has 100 languages. This means children express thinking not only through words but through drawing, building, movement, sound, role play, and making. For designers, this immediately signals something powerful. Toys are not tools for instruction, they are languages for thinking. In the Reggio Emilia approach, the child is seen as capable, curious, and full of ideas, not fragile or incomplete. Learning happens primarily through relationships with peers, teachers, materials, and the environment itself. Dialogue, negotiation, and shared meaning are central. Expression is multimodal. Children draw, sculpt, build, dramatize, record, paint, design, and invent. Each form is considered a legitimate language of thinking. The curriculum is emergent. Instead of pre-planned lessons, teachers observe children's interest and build learning projects around them. One of Reggio Emilia's most influential ideas is that the environment itself teaches. They call it the third teacher, after adults and peers. Classrooms are not cluttered or decorative. They are carefully designed studios. Light, shadow, mirrors, transparency, and natural materials are deliberately used to provoke curiosity. Materials are placed openly so children can choose freely. Wall displays, children's drawings, constructions, photographs, and conversations, making learning visible. In Reggio Emilia, play is not separated from learning. Children work on long-term projects that may last weeks or months. They explore themes like water, shadows, buildings, insects, families, or cities through drawings, building, experimenting, and storytelling. Play becomes a form of research. Children test ideas, revise plans, represent their thinking, and return to problem again and again. Documentation is central. Teachers record conversation, drawings, photos, and constructions, not to evaluate, but to reflect and deepen learning. Reggio Emilia strongly influences how we design creative and construction toys today. Instead of fixed function toys, it favors open-ended materials. Blocks, clay, wire, paper, mirrors, fabric, light, tables, and loose parts. These materials don't prescribe what to make. They invite interpretation, combination, and reinvention. There is no correct outcome. Value lies in the process, experimenting, revising, collaborating, and expressing. Reggio Emilia's legacy is visible in today's creative classrooms, maker spaces, and studio-based learning environments. It has strongly shaped project-based learning, inquiry learning, and the maker movement. For toy designers, Reggio offers a different design lens. Design not to teach facts, but to invite thinking. Design not for efficiency, but for expression. Design system that children can reinterpret endlessly. In Reggio, a good toy is not one that gives answers. It is one that generates questions, conversations, drawings, models, and stories. This philosophy is especially powerful for designing creative construction, art-based, and STEM toys. Next, we have the Waldorf education model, which was founded by Rudolf Steiner in 1999 in Germany. It began as a school for the children of factory workers but quickly developed into a global educational movement. Steiner's philosophy is deeply holistic. He believed education should develop not only thinking but also feeling and willing, what he called the head, heart, hands. Unlike Montessori or Reggio, Waldorf places strong emphasis on rhythm, imagination, and artistic experience. Learning is aligned and what Steiner saw as natural developmental stages of the child. For designers, Waldorf immediately signals something important. Toys are not just learning tools, they are instruments for imagination, sensory harmony, and emotional growth. At the heart of Waldorf education is the idea of holistic development. Children are not trained only intellectually, but emotionally, socially, physically, and creatively. Imagination plays a central role, especially in early childhood. Stories, puppetry, fantasy, play, music, and movement are considered essential learning modes. Learning follows rhythm, daily, weekly, and seasonal routines. Structure the child's experience, creating emotional security and predictability. Formal academics are delayed. In early years, emphasis is placed on play, movement, storytelling, art, and practical life. In world of pedagogy, play is not preparation for learning. It is the primary form of learning in early childhood. Imaginative play is considered especially powerful. Children are encouraged to invent stories, transform objects, and create worlds from simple materials. Adults intervene very little. Teachers provide rhythm and atmosphere, but children lead the play themselves. There are no worksheets, no early literacy drills, and no academic toys in early years. Instead, learning emerges through imitation, storytelling, movement, and fantasy. For designers, Waldorf remind us that open-endedness, simplicity, and imagination may be more valuable than complexity or instruction. Waldorf classrooms are immediately recognizable by their materials. Plastic, electronics, and flashy toys are largely avoided. Instead, children play with wood, wool, cotton, silk, clay, stone, pine cones, shells, and fabrics. Toys are intentionally simple and unfinished. A wooden block may become a car, a house, an animal, or a phone, depending on the child's imagination. Colors are soft and natural, never overstimulating. Textures are warm and tactile. For designers, this approach teaches as important lesson. Sometimes less design creates more play. By leaving forms incomplete, we allow imagination to complete them. Waldorf pedagogy has deeply influenced the design of natural and handmade toys worldwide. Wooden animals, cloth dolls, silk, scribs, stacking arches, balance boards, and loose parts all reflect this philosophy. These toys don't instruct, they do not speak, flash, or demonstrate. Instead, they invite children to invent meaning, create narratives, and transform objects symbolically. For designers, Waldorf offers a counterpoint to high tech toys. It reminds us that imagination grows not from stimulation but from space, simplicity, and sensory warmth. Waldorf's influence is visible today in the popularity of wooden toys, cloth dolls, loose parts, and nature based play materials. It has shaped a global movement towards sustainable, handcrafted, and imagination driven toys. In Waldorf, a good toy does not show the child what to do. It waits patiently for the child to decide. We come to STEM or STEM pedagogy next. STEM refers to teaching that integrates science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through active problem solving. STEM extends this by adding arts and design, recognizing that creativity, aesthetics, and imagination are central to innovation. Unlike traditional subject based teaching, STEM and STEAM are interdisciplinary. Children don't learn physics, maths, and engineering separately. They learn them together through projects. The central idea is learning by doing. Students build models, design systems, test prototypes, fail, improve, and try again and again. At the heart of STEM and STEAM pedagogy is experiential learning. Children don't only listen or observe, they manipulate, construct, and experiment. Problems are open ended. There may be many possible solutions, not just one correct answer. Iteration is central. Children are encouraged to test ideas, fail safely, adjust designs, and try again. This is where the connection of paper becomes very strong. Like constructionism, STEM learning assumes that knowledge is built by making meaningful things. In STEM pedagogy, toys are not teaching aids, they are learning environments. Construction kits, robotic sets, marble run, coding toys, and marker kits allow children to think with their hands. Play becomes experimentation. Children test gravity, friction, balance, sequencing, logic, and control without formal equations. Failure is not punished, it becomes information. A collapsing bridge or a stalled robot teaches more than a correct worksheet. This directly echoes Paper's constructionism. Learning happens most deeply when children build something external that represents their thinking. Good STEM toys shared several design characteristics. Cause and effect must be visible. When a gear turns or a circuit closes, the child should clearly see what changed. Difficulty should progress gradually. Early success builds confidence, while later complexity sustains engagement. Crucially, toys must support failure and repair. If parts break easily or cannot be reconfigured, learning stops. From a design perspective, STEM toys succeed not because they teach concepts directly, but because they invite cycles of thinking, making, testing, and reflecting. Modern STEM toys are direct descendants of Papert's idea. Papert believed children should learn mathematics, logic, and systems by programming, building, and experimenting. His work on Lego and later Lego Mindstorms established a new category of toys that embody computation, engineering, and thinking. Today's robotic kits, coding boards, electronic blocks, and maker systems follow exactly this path. They turn abstract concepts into tangible systems that children can manipulate. For designers, this reminds us that STEM toys are not neutral objects. They carry a philosophy of learning, one that value agency, experimentation, and construction of knowledge. In today's world, education is no longer only about knowledge. Global frameworks emphasize skills such as critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, adaptability, and digital literacy. These are often called 21st century skills. Importantly, these skills cannot be taught effectively through lectures alone. They must be practiced through experience, projects, and interactions. This is where toys and play become powerful educational tool. A well-designed toy can train problem solving, persistence, teamwork, communication, and creative thinking, all within playful contexts. For designers, this expands the responsibility of toy design beyond entertainment toward future skill development. STEM and STEAM toys are uniquely positioned to develop 21st century skills. When children solve construction challenges, they practice problem solving and system thinking. When they design structures or programs, they exercise creativity and innovation. When they build together, they learn collaboration, negotiation, and communication. When their designs fail, they practice resilience, persistence, and emotional regulation. From a design perspective, this is powerful. A single toy can simultaneously develop thinking, creativity, social skills, and confidence, not by instruction, but by experience. This is the modern vision of toy-based pedagogy. Toys as playful laboratories for the skills of the future. UNESCO has issued a document called Games and Toys in the Teaching of Science and Technology in 1988 that highlights that play supports curiosity, exploration, and experimentation, all of which are foundational to scientific thinking. It also emphasizes that science and technology don't need to start with formal lab setting. Toys and games can introduce these ideas through familiar, enjoyable experiences. This is especially meaningful in contexts where resources are limited. Learning can still be rich and meaningful through play. One powerful contribution from this UNESCO work is its focus on process skills. Skills like observing, predicting, classifying, and experimenting are seen as central to science learning. Rather than memorizing facts, children learn science by doing. The document stresses that concepts and process skills should develop together. If children only memorize concepts without exploration, learning remains shallow. A very practical insight here is that effective learning does not require expensive equipment. Low cost and locally made toys can be just as powerful. UNESCO also highlights the value of traditional and cultural games. These often already contains scientific ideas such as balance, force, sound, or measurement. This is important for culturally responsive pedagogy. Instead of importing learning tools, teachers can build from what children already know. Finally, it talks about a shift in the teacher's role. The teacher becomes a facilitator who sets up experiences, asks questions, and encourages exploration. So the emphasis is not on delivering knowledge, but on creating environments where discovery happens. Toy-based pedagogy is a national educational approach articulated by the Ministry of Education, Government of India, as part of the National Education Policy 2020. The core idea is simple, but powerful toys are not just entertainment. They are legitimate learning resources. This document positions toys, games, puppets, and play materials as tools for experiential learning across subjects and stages of schooling. Toy-based pedagogy sits within the broader umbrella of play-based learning, but places special focus on indigenous, local, and culturally rooted toys. The intent is not to add more content, but to change how children experience learning. This shift supports holistic development, cognitive, physical, social, emotional, and cultural through meaningful engagement. The toy-based pedagogy clearly challenges a long-standing misconception that toys distract children from learning. Instead, it argues that toys engage children's senses, curiosity, and imagination, making learning deeper and more memorable. Children naturally explore concepts like balance, gravity, quantity, comparison, and cause and effect through play. Toy-based learning allows children to experiment, fail safely, repeat actions, and refine understanding. This form of engagement strengthens attention, motivation, and persistence, qualities essential for lifelong learning. Importantly, toys help children express emotions, negotiate social roles, and build values such as cooperation, patience, and fairness. Toy-based pedagogy, therefore, reframes play as a serious developmentally essential mode of learning rather than a break from it. A distinctive emphasis of this policy is the use of indigenous and traditional Indian toys and games. These toys are deeply connected to local culture, materials, festivals, occupations, and everyday life. Clay toys, wooden figures, cloth dolls, puppets, board games, and street games carry embedded knowledge about society, environment, and rule and values. Using such toys helps children connect learning to their lived experiences and cultural identity. The toy-based pedagogy from the ministry highlights that indigenous toys are often low cost, locally available, and ecologically sustainable. They also support inclusivity by reducing dependence on expensive commercial toys. For children, this fosters pride, local culture. For communities, it supports traditional artisans and craftspeople. In this way, toy based pedagogy links education, culture, sustainability, and livelihood in a single ecosystem. Now, let us discuss how toy based pedagogy can be integrated into curriculum and classroom practice. Toys are mapped to concepts, competencies, and learning outcomes across subjects and age groups. For younger children, toys help concretize abstract ideas through hands on explorations. At later stages, toys and games support interdisciplinary learning, problem solving, and critical thinking. Teachers are encouraged to design activities where children create toys, modify games, or use toys to explain concepts. Toy based learning is not restricted to one subject. It can bridge mathematics, science, language, social science, and art. Flexibility is key here. Teachers adapt toys to context, age, and learning goals rather than following rigid formats. The classroom becomes a space for exploration, dialogue, making, and reflection, not just instruction. One of the most significant impacts of toy based pedagogy, as highlighted in the Government of India Handbook, is improved student engagement and attendance. Teachers reported that when lessons incorporated toys and playful materials, children are more eager to come to schools and more willing to participate in classroom activities. This increase in attendance is not just about fun, it reflects a reduction in fear and anxiety around learning. Especially for younger children and first generation learners, when learning feels approachable and familiar, children are less intimidated by the classroom environment. Toy based pedagogy also supports deeper conceptual understanding. Instead of memorizing abstract information, children learn by doing, manipulating objects, experimenting, and observing outcomes. This is particularly effective in subjects like mathematics, science, and language, where concrete experiences help anchor abstract ideas. Another important impact noted in the document is greater inclusion. Toys allow children with different language abilities, learning speeds, and socioeconomic backgrounds to participate meaningfully even when verbal or written skills are still developing. Finally, toy based pedagogy strengthens confidence and agency. Children experience themselves as capable learners who can explore, make mistakes, and succeed, not by being told answers, but by discovering them through interaction. In this sense, toys are not distractions from learning, they become bridges into learning, especially for children who might otherwise feel excluded or left behind. The handbook positions toy based pedagogy as a key pathway towards implementing NEP 2020 vision. It supports critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and adaptability, core 21st century skills. By reducing rote learning and content overload, it creates spaces for deeper understanding. The approach values diversity, inclusion, and cultural relevance and sustainability. Importantly, it recognizes that meaningful learning does not have to be stressful or abstract. When children learn through play, they learn with joy, curiosity, and confidence. Toy based pedagogy reminds us that education works best when it respects how children naturally learn by doing, imagining, and engaging with the world. If we step back and look across all the approaches we have discussed, Froebel, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, Waldorf, Pepper's constructionism, STEM, and STEAM learning, a very clear pattern emerges. All of these frameworks move learning away from passive instruction, where children listen, copy, or memorize, and toward active learning, where children explore, manipulate, question, and create. In passive learning, knowledge is delivered to the child. In active learning, knowledge is constructed by the child through experience. This shift also changes the role of the teacher. Across these pedagogies, the teacher is no longer the central source of information, but a facilitator, someone who designs environment, introduces materials, asks questions, and supports exploration. Assessment changes as well. Instead of only testing what a child can reproduce on paper, learning is addressed through observation. How children engage, collaborate, persist, explain, and adapt. Curriculum too becomes grounded in experience. Learning goals remain important, but they are reached through doing, making, and playing, rather than abstract instruction alone. Toy-based pedagogy brings all of these ideas together in a form that is practical, scalable, and culturally responsive. Here, toys are not distractions or rewards. They are the medium through which learning happens. For us as designers, this synthesis is critical. It reminds us that when we design toys for learning, we are not designing objects alone. We are designing experiences, interactions, and way of thinking. As we conclude this lecture, I want you to take a step back and look at what connects all the pedagogies we discussed today. Whether it is Froebel gift, Montessori's material, Reggio Emilia's environments, Waldorf's classroom, Pepper's constructionism, or contemporary toy-based pedagogy, the message is consistent. Children learn best when they are active participant in the learning process, not passive recipient of information. Toys, when thoughtfully designed, becomes tools for thinking, exploring, expressing, and making sense of the world. For educators, toy-based pedagogy offers a way to make curriculum more engaging, inclusive, and meaningful. For designers, it carries responsibility. Every design decision, the material, the form, the openness, the level of guidance shapes how a child experiences learning. In that sense, designing toys is not just about creating fun objects. It is about shaping how curiosity, confidence, and understanding are built. And that is why toy-based pedagogy matters. See you in the next lecture. Till then, enjoy learning through play.